Hello, welcome to the special report, your news and views program about geek gaming culture on the internet. Come up in this show today, JonTron gets dropped from the Yooka-Laylee game a couple weeks before it is set to launch because of his recent podcast with Twitch streamer Destiny. We are going to talk about all the ramifications of what I think of both the dropping and what he actually said. Please be advised that this is going to contain some sensitive subject matter, so viewer discretion is advised. My name is JD Shadow, and the special report will start right about now. So finally, I think I have the reason to talk about this, to discuss this whole thing that happened on Sunday, because of what transpired today on the 23rd of March 2017. The UK developer Playtonic has removed the controversial YouTuber JonTron from its upcoming title Yooka-Laylee, according to GamesIndustry.biz. JonTron, real name John Jafari, has found himself in the news in recent weeks following a series of far-right views about immigration, ethnicity, and nationalism. Now, if you do not know the entire story, JonTron is a famous YouTuber who is, by the way, in the Maker Studios umbrella. And that would be proving to be kind of ironic, given that he's still within Maker Studios. And it was Maker Studios who released PewDiePie after the slightest hint of anything controversial. Seems to be what I've been saying all along, that it had nothing to do with PewDiePie saying anything that could be considered anti-Semitic, but Maker Studios needing to get rid of him in order to save some money. Anyway, back to JonTron. He went on a show, a 2-hour-long podcast with somebody by the name of Destiny. And I will admit I did not go and listen to the entire thing. It is 2 hours long. I should go ahead and do that, but I am not going to hold judgment on whether or not anything he said was actually racist or bigoted or anything of the sort, because I do not have any authority as to whether or not he said anything like that, because I don't know what he actually said. I want to judge based on the context, not on the content of what he might or might not said, according to what some articles who might have an axe to grind already against those kinds of people, because like I said before, we might have to talk about the supposed war that might be happening between written blogs and YouTube vloggers. But anyway, JonTron is the founder of the channel network Normal Boots, according to GamesIndustry.biz, and Christopher Dring, who wrote this up, plus the host of a series of other YouTube shows. He reportedly lost a number of subscribers on the back of the controversy. That would be the thing that he did with Destiny, plus some other viewpoints that he has said quite recently and throughout the past year or so. Although he has since attempted to clarify and downplay some of those views in a recent YouTube video he posted, saying, "Let me clarify what's been going on recently." However, here comes when we get to what Playtonic decided to do. In February 2015, when it became apparent that Jafari was a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie, Playtonic, who had taken over the reins of Banjo-Kazooie from, I guess it was Rare Studios, that decided they wanted to not do a Banjo-Kazooie game and decided to let Playtonic do a Kickstarter campaign in order to raise 2 million pounds. Not sure what the conversion of that is. The regional equivalent of that is in the US. And Playtonic invited the YouTuber to voice a minor character in Yooka-Laylee, the spiritual successor that's generated over that much via Kickstarter. That was an offer that was accepted. However, the controversy has caused Playtonic to seemingly drop JonTron from their game that is set to launch within a few weeks or so. According to a firm that told Game Industry Biz in the statement, said, quote, "We recently became aware of comments made by voice artist JonTron after development on Yooka-Laylee had been completed. JonTron is a talented video presenter who we were initially 2 years ago happy to include as a voice contributor in our game. However, in light of his recent personal viewpoints, we have made the decision to remove JonTron's inclusion in the game via a forthcoming content update. We would like to make absolutely clear that we do not endorse or support JonTron's personal viewpoints, and that as an external fan contributor, he does not represent Playtonic in any capacity. Playtonic is a studio that celebrates diversity in all forms and strives to make games that everyone can enjoy. As such, we deeply regret any implied association that could make players feel anything but 100% comfortable in our game worlds, or distracted from the incredible goodwill and love shown by our fans and Kickstarter backers. And if you think for just a second that so many people are upset about this, there have been actually mixed feelings about this on Twitter by some people actually saying that they were going to buy 5 copies of it now that JonTron has been dropped from this game, and many people who are saying that it is going to alienate people even further, which I have to fall with the latter here. Now, first of all, again, let me reiterate that if you think for a second that by me defending or condoning or condemning anything that I would be bigoted or racist or homophobic or anything like that, then you are an absolute idiot. Because you should know me by now. You should know about how I work things by now. You should know what I support and who I support. You should not be thinking in any sort of way that I would be in any way bigoted toward any person. Please, let's get that clear before I go and say my piece about this, because if you really do think that by me saying what I'm going to say is going to make me in any sort of way bigoted on proxy, then you are an idiot and you deserve whatever you get from that. Okay, so with that having been said, let's first of all say that I do not know completely what he has said. I heard bits and pieces, but I have reserved my judgment until I hear the entirety of the 2-hour show that he did with Destiny. And let me put that through first of all. Playtonic and those people who are condemning JonTron or anything that he said, before you go even judging what he said, has anybody actually listened to the entirety of the 2-hour show he did? Are they judging based upon the entirety of the 2-hour show he did and not taking anything out of context? Or are they judging what he said or condemning what he said based upon an article that he was being analyzed by? Because let me tell you something. These very same people who are condemning JonTron right now have condemned PewDiePie, have condemned Total Biscuit, have condemned just about every single YouTuber you could possibly imagine. And that is because they see that as competition they need to get rid of, regardless of how many toes they step on or how many lives they destroy. They have every intention on making this a war between YouTubers and the bloggers, and people like Polygon, and people like Otaku, the people like Destructoid, those kinds of people who have been viewing this as competition that they have to destroy by any means necessary. So I would not trust what they said in any sort of way. Now, there are some very good journalists out there who will actually take upon the context of what was actually said, which JonTron, from what I can gather from what I read, he did research. He did things that show that he was not trying to be bigoted or racist or anything of the sort, from what I can gather. But these are things about race. These are things about gender. But these are not necessarily about race. Now, I can tell you that there are right now a couple of things that we are completely at odds with. One, obviously, you can say, okay, if you're saying, hey, N-word, hey, N-word, hey, N-word, and then saying that these people are N-words, obviously that's racism. Obviously that's not going to be tolerated. However, what we're having a problem with is this two-way stuff that I think we are not understanding that is existing right now. Where you can say, oh, well, you're not going to say this about a man, or you're not going to say this about a white person or about a straight person. When you're going into that frame of mind, when you're going into that kind of talk, that's when you might have a particular issue, because how are you able to tell whether or not that person who is criticizing you or is saying something about a particular situation, how do you know they wouldn't say that about a person of a different race or a different religion or a different ethnic group? How do you know that they wouldn't? Or how do you know that they would? That in of itself has a bunch of issues. That's why I call it a two-way thing, where you can take it either way. And that's really dangerous, because then you open the door for people in order to use that as either weapons or use that as shields. So you just say, oh, well, you wouldn't say that about a white person when they would, and it's actually about your work not having anything to do about your race or gender or creed or anything of that sort. And it's really hard to be able to talk about that when you have those other people who are so ready with a pitchfork and a torch, just willing, just ready to dare you to screw up, to say one word that's out of line, to say just one thing that just irks them. And you have other people who are ready with that pitchfork and that torch, but they're using it for a different purpose. They want to get some publicity. They want to get those 15 minutes of fame. They want to do that virtue signaling. They want to say, hey, we're better than you. And they're using it as an advertising slogan. They're not using it because they really feel as though they are committed to diversity. And this is something that has plagued us for a while now. Both the right wing and the left wing are guilty of it. Don't think for a second it is exclusive to one side or the other. It is both sides that do this. Both political spectrums have these sections of their sides who think that they have the moral ground, they have the authority to tell others that their viewpoints are wrong about a specific thing. Now, I'm not saying that what JonTron said was or was not racist by proxy. I'm not saying that. This is where we get the problems, because anything I say right now, you can take out of context anything I have just said, and you can put it onto a soundbite, and all of a sudden it has a completely different meaning from what was actually said. That's what PewDiePie had said in that video, which Wall Street Journal took out of context anyway, and people believed it. Here's the thing. Instead of going to the source that these people are getting them from, you're reading the Wall Street Journal and then believing the Wall Street Journal without even considering the source, without even going to what PewDiePie actually said, or what JonTron actually said, or what TB actually said, what I actually said, or anything along those lines. We are believing strangers above people who we should know, who we have seen for months, for years now. When did we start thinking that the media, that these journalists have the absolute final say in what somebody said? They have just as much ability to take someone out of context, to be just as malicious as anybody else, because they are human. These are not robots, they are human. They have the ability and they have the means to do something like that. There are hit pieces, they exist on the right and the left. Please be aware of it. And please, we need to be better at discussing things. When you have people ready with those pitchforks and torches, ready and willing and able to dare you to screw up, and then the one time you think you said everything perfect and they twist things around to make you believe, hey, you screwed up somewhere, but what did I actually say? What did I actually say that was so wrong? And then they say, oh, this. No one but you thought that. But again, we live in a world where people will believe anybody that calls somebody a racist or homophobic without considering any form of context, without even going to who actually said it, who was being claimed to have said it. And again, this is not me saying that what he did or didn't say was any way bigoted or in any way not bigoted. It is me trying to get some common sense into people's heads, because quite frankly, we have probably lost it at this point. And this gets even more interesting because a person who actually did that podcast with JonTron Destiny is actually saying that he is condemning Playtonic for what their decision even is, because he's saying this is further alienating people. If he, the one who had actually hosted that podcast, is saying, wait a minute, this is not the way we have to go in doing this. This is not the way we do this around here. This is not the way we should be doing it. Then perhaps you should listen to him. Listen to some of these people, some of these YouTube vloggers. They might have a better understanding of what's going on than these print people do right now. And I'm not saying that everybody in the print media is abhorrent or whatever. But again, this is that two-way thing I'm talking about here. This is that little thing where you could take it either way. And usually we're taking it the anti-diversity way here. And that's really dangerous, because how do you know one way or the other? Because you can take it either way. You can take these things either way. People have used these things as shields. People have used these things as weapons. Just ask Emma Watson what she thinks right now. They decided to attack her after she said, hey, you don't use feminism as a way to bash people over the head when they screw up. That's not feminism. She's much more of a feminist than those people who were trying to attack her for the picture she did. And a lot of people love her. And I know I'm getting a little off track here, but this is basically what Playtonic has based their whole entire decision around. Now, do they have every right to release him or not release him? Yes, they have every right to do whatever they want. However, we have every right as consumers, as people who might or might not be fans of his or might or might not agree with everything he's actually said, to criticize Playtonic for what they've done. We have every right to say, hey, you did something wrong, and we have every right to say, hey, if you don't reverse this decision, we're not going to buy your game. And the people who are trying to say, oh, we're going to buy 5 of these now that this racist is gone. Let me ask you a question. First of all, do you have that much money to burn just so you can make a political point or something that's beyond politics or whatever you want to make? Do you have that much money to burn? Are you really going to do that? And second of all, and this is going to be more along the lines of that, if you're saying that you have enough money to do that, what is that saying about you? What are you implying to other people who might be following you on Twitter right now? Some of the people who are praising this decision have already had an axe to grind with him before they even knew about this supremacy stuff or whatever you're calling it. Before this whole thing ever came to pass, they already had a problem with him because they had a problem with YouTube vloggers. This was just a convenient issue that they could get behind. They're still stretching out this PewDiePie thing as if no one who has said any counterpoints ever talked at all. It's like they never listened, or they listened and didn't care. That's because they have a agenda behind this. They have their own agenda. Now, as far as Playtonic is concerned, I don't exactly know when they decided they wanted to do this. I mean, here's the thing. It took them a week after this whole thing went about to make this kind of decision. So I wonder what kind of reasoning they had to wait this long and then all of a sudden say, oh, by the way, we don't like your views. All of a sudden we found out about these views when we were being hit over the head with every single club imaginable about these views and about the fallout of these views for about a couple of weeks now. So you just now found out about them? You just now decided to make a stand? You just now decided that you were going to just drop him? BS. I don't buy that. I don't buy that Playtonic just now found out about these views, because they've been in the news for a while now. If you are reading anything within the game's media or listening to any of the YouTube vloggers or on Twitter, the fact of the matter is that I believe Playtonic was being pressured by whoever it was to make a stand. I don't think this is a decision they decided to make on their own. There was some pressure here from somebody, whoever it might be, to get Playtonic to drop him. And they did not want to say that they were pressured. I mean, just look at their statement here. Playtonic is a studio that celebrates diversity in all forms and strives to make games that everyone can enjoy. As such, we deeply regret any implied association that could make players feel anything but 100% comfortable in our game worlds or distract from the incredible goodwill of love shown by our fans and Kickstarter backers. How do you know that any of those Kickstarter backers were not fans of JonTron or knew that JonTron was going to be in the game and based their backing upon that? How do you know that they didn't know that he was going to be in the game? And how do you know that they didn't say, oh, he's in the game, we're going to go ahead and make sure that he has his voice in the game? How do you know that they didn't base that whole thing into whether or not they wanted to back that project? Because now that you have decided to turn face, or turn heel in this case, because I don't agree with this decision, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in a moment, because, hey, this is going on long enough. How about we go on a little bit more about this? Not only that, but those people who are going to be playing this game, 3/4 of them don't even know that any of this has happened. Had no idea about what he even said, or the controversy surrounding it, or the this way, that way that you can interpret things. Implied association can make players feel anything more 100% comfortable. The game will... Okay, so wait a minute. Here's the other thing. Banjo-Kazooie is a kid's game. Who kid is going to, one, care about what he said? Second of all, is he going to say anything racist in a Yooka-Laylee game? In a Banjo-Kazooie game? What, Banjo is suddenly going to go up and shout profanities and racial epithets at people? Assuming that's what he did? Are you kidding me? This is a fantasy world. You go into a fantasy world to escape from the real world and this kind of stuff. I don't buy that Playtonic decided to just find out about this now. This is a fantasy world. They're already going to feel safe in this world. That's why we play games. That's what they're there for. As a way to be able to cope. As a way to be able to escape. As a way to be able to come together. There's a word, right? To be able to come together. Regardless of your social background. Or your social background. Regardless of that. And finally, and this is the last point I want to make, how do you think this is going to go over? All of this is going to do is to further the divide. And I know some people, this is their goal, is to further this divide and to split apart a community that didn't feel this split apart before in their lives. But do you think for a minute that the way in order to talk about these issues is to lambast them and to hold pitchforks and torches, daring somebody to screw up one time, to say one letter out of line? Is that the way we need to do things? I don't think so. We need civil discourse, and this is just going to alienate people further. The people who are with JonTron are just going to be angrier at those people who are saying, oh, we're going to buy 5 games now because they dropped them. Yay! What are you accomplishing? What are you going to accomplish by doing that? You're not going to accomplish anything. You're just going to show that you are unwilling to actually discuss topics like this. At least with a level head, and instead of doing what it is we're doing now. The only problem to this is that we have people who are actually advertising that we should use anarchy in order to solve these issues. That's the real issue here. That's the real problem. It's not that we don't have diversity or that we have to come back to diversity. That is not the main issue here. The main issue is that the people who are preaching it right now are those that are thinking that the only way to get people to be more diverse is to become like the racist, become a little like the homophobe people, to become a little like the bigoted people, to be somewhat like the people who voted for Donald Trump, the people who are using the third-party block list on Twitter without thinking twice about who it is they're blocking or why they're blocking them or what the people who made it, what their real intentions were blocking somebody or putting them on the list. I mean, I was watching a aggressive progressive show on the Young Turks, and one of the guests said that you can't have the ability to fight extremism through moderation. A little bit of words, it is extremism that has got us to this point, has got us here, that had birthed Donald Trump, that had birthed this whole whatever this alt-right thing is. That is what you have created by doing that, by saying that kind of stuff. That's what has got us this problem. And again, I don't know the context of what was all said, and I'm not going to judge him one way or the other until I have a chance to watch it or listen to it in full. I'm not going to be like that, and even if I had listened to it in full, this is still not the way to do things. And even he said he probably could have handled that debate better. He probably could have worded some things better to probably not have them taken out of context. And even he's saying civil discourse is a way we get out of this mess. And I have to agree. The problem is that there are people who are trying to go the other direction. And that can't be. If we lose that whole idea that civil discourse is the way to go in this whole situation, and we realize that it's our thirst for anarchy that has birthed things like Donald Trump's election win, then we are going to scare people away. There's going to be even more of a backlash because of not us talking about it, but us going after each other, alienating those people who are of the same ethnic background for not believing that something should be offensive or should be ridiculed or something along those lines. We just got to get better at this. And even if you believe that every single word that JonTron said in that Twitch stream was racist or bigoted, even if you believe that, and again, I don't know one way or the other, I'm not going to make a judgment one way or the other because I didn't even watch a Twitch stream. I haven't watched it myself yet. Even if you buy into what the Wall Street Journal said about PewDiePie, even if you agree that PewDiePie should have had a load of punishment dealt against him, even if you believe in some of the things that have been said about some people within the past couple of years or so, have we also forgotten about forgiveness? At some point, you have to let go of a grudge. At some point, you have to let it go. At some point, people change. Maybe this is a time for you to tell JonTron, hey, maybe your views are wrong, but maybe we can come together or something. Maybe we can get you to see things our way. No, you're going after him with pitchforks and torches. You're going after PewDiePie with all sorts of vitriolacy. You're going after everybody this way. You're not wanting to sit down. You don't care. You're going and holding a black cloud over somebody forever and ever and ever. Over something that you might be able to actually have a better chance at getting somebody to see your way. If you don't do that, they're not going to want to talk to you. If you're going after them with an axe to grind, or you have your mind already made up, or you're believing a random blog over top of somebody you should know a lot more than that random blogger who might just be a stranger or might have their own agenda. We have to learn to forgive somebody even if they did something wrong, even if you know they did something wrong. At some point, you have to at least try to move on from it. People don't hold to every single belief forever. You know how the right wing harped on Robert C. Byrd for being a part of the Ku Klux Klan at one point? That was in the 1960s, and they're still saying that he deserved every kind of ridicule. They still held it against him. Hell, they still hold what happened with Jane Fonda against her to this day. How long ago was that? That was in the 1960s. They're still acting about it and losing their goddamn minds about anything she ever does, as if she just did whatever she did yesterday. Do we really want to become like them? Do we really want to become like the right wing when they do that kind of stuff? Obviously, you probably don't want that to happen, so why are you doing the exact same thing to them or to your own people? Why are you doing that? Why are you becoming the right wing? Why are you becoming them? Why are you becoming like them? In order to fight them, you have to become like them. Why are we getting that sort of mentality? What made us think that holding a grudge is healthy for people? Yes, these are very sensitive issues, and maybe what JonTron said is not easy to stomach, or maybe uneasy to say, hey, we might be able to forgive you for those types of views if you are able to listen to us and see things from our perspective. Sometimes it's very hard to do that, but at least give somebody a chance to apologize. At least give somebody a chance to rectify the situation. At least give some people the chance to clarify things, which he did. At some point, you have to let go of a grudge. And there's a lot of people that did some stupid crap. People make mistakes. People make mistakes. You have to acknowledge that sometimes people just make a mistake. They screw up. They F up. And you might just have to say, you know what, we're going to give you a chance to make it right. Let them have a chance to make it right. If they say, hey, we apologize for our mistakes, and say, hey, maybe what I did was wrong, or maybe I didn't say things the way I should have said them, or maybe I didn't mean to say them the way they came out. And hell, I've done some stupid stuff in my life. I've said some stupid stuff in my life. I've done stupid things in my life, or said some things I thought later, hey, that might have not been the right way to do things, or that might have not been the correct way to handle a situation. Does that mean I should pay for that mistake forever and ever and ever? Well, it might depend on the nature of the mistake, but at some point, if I'm trying to apologize for it and I'm trying to tone back, if I'm trying to become a better person, should that second chance be given? In that sense, maybe. Maybe it's hard to give people third chances, but it might not be too difficult to give somebody a second chance. And I think JonTron did a fair share of trying to make the situation right. And I think it did a good job of that. Now, as far as Playtonic is concerned, yes, they have every right to react to what they have seen, but I don't think they were making this decision willingly, because this has been all over the place. They could have just found out about it just by looking up on the Google or by looking up JonTron. They had to have had some pressure here. I think they have. Now, what pressure that was and what that consisted of is left up to the eye of the beholder. What was that pressure? Was it something similar to the Wall Street Journal, what they did with PewDiePie? Or was it a group of people that were saying, hey, either you drop him now or we're rescinding our funding for your Kickstarter, which they can't do anyway because Kickstarter, or hey, we won't buy your game. But here's the thing, and this is going to be something I have to end with because it's gone on for long enough. This is a byproduct of something that has been plaguing us for some time. This is something that is a byproduct of something that we might have created and we have not called out yet, or have refused to see as it being a problem. The majority of us are on the side of diversity and we want different ethnic groups to be included. I don't think anyone is against that. We were never against that. We have come so far and we have been able to convince so many people about minorities not being minorities anymore. The problem is that we might be what causes everybody to go backwards, because we are deciding that anarchy is the only way we're going to get any more diversity, and that is not the way. It's actually going to do the exact opposite. It's going to make people not want to talk to you. It's going to make people not want to discuss these issues because they don't want to deal with those people who decide if vitriolacy or anarchy is the only way, that alienating people and ostracizing people is the absolute only way, and that it should be encouraged to incite violence or vitriolic natures in people. That is not the way. And for Playtonic to do this, as much as they have every right to do so, is only going to make matters worse. It's only going to further the situation. And the way that they handled this, the way that Playtonic did this 2 weeks after the fact, makes me suspicious about why they decided to do this just now. Hopefully they have some second thoughts about this, because this is only going to drive us even further apart. And it's not what we need to have happen, even though some people would love to see it happen. Okay, that's going to do it for this edition of the Special Report. Thanks again for watching and listening to me ramble. I know I went on for a long time. I apologize for that. There was a lot I needed to get off my chest about that. Hopefully you didn't take it too personally. I am scared of how this is going to turn out. If you liked it, please go ahead and hit that like on the bottom there. You're free to do that, and you're free to disagree civilly and with a little bit of discourse and a little bit of maturity. Tell me what you thought about this episode. Also, if you liked it, please subscribe for more geek gaming culture. I try to post new videos whenever I can. Until next time, my name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.